Welcome to the Broken Agenda podcast, sponsored by Laughing Rock Technology.
No, that is the penalty box.
It's. I'm not 100% sure I'm following this conversation.
I don't. Yeah, I'm lost now.
But either way, I like it. All right, you ready to start running time?
Yeah, we can.
Wow, I hope my
you need that.
info.
What's that?
I hope that my info carried over.
Did it?
Looks like it.
I did not even for a second go into our Microsoft, not Notepad, what is it?
OneNote.
OneNote.
Jimmy's OneNote.
Dude, why
I still love the OneNote. Never even looked at it. And I support the OneNote. I should have put the agenda in OneNote. I mean,
You should have.
I know. I'm building that on Word like a sucker.
I've been trying to figure out how to turn Jimmy's OneNote that he shared to us as a shared one, like something that we could all access. But he
I
just gave
found
us
an
access
open.
to it.
I'm investigating open source. Note.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
app.
that
So,
would be.
I'm going to be converting.
Evernote. Isn't Evernote open source?
I don't
Or
think
no, that's a
Evernote
private
is.
company.
That's a
No.
private
That's a
company.
paid
Yeah.
software, yeah.
I did find a couple though. I mean, I only just dabbled on it because I was so deep into Linux today that I didn't.
I've looked into those. I
Joplin.
feel like they were very feature-less.
Joplin looks almost
know.
exactly like OneNote.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably gotten better since I last researched it, but when I looked before, it just didn't do what I was looking for.
No.
Enough to replace OneNote, at least at the time. So,
I mean, I don't really use many features in the OneNote.
let's see. Like I have
Every now and then I like to insert a spreadsheet, but I really don't need to.
I mean, you get pretty fancy with it,
What's that?
inserting spreadsheets and stuff.
You don't do that?
No, I mean I do. I have something called Onetastic installed. It allows you to run macros and stuff.
I've never.
Onetastic.
Yeah, it's like a third-party software. That's why I won't go beyond the 2016 version of OneNote.
So you have that installed on your OneNote application?
Yeah, it's like a plugin for it,
Okay.
and you can write macros.
I didn't even know OneNote had plugins.
I want to steal
I
that.
think it's the only one.
Oh, is it?
I'm gonna take that.
It's kind of cool. Like I did it because I wanted to organize, and instead of having to sit there and drag and drop everything, you can just run a macros through this tool.
So would you run macros?
I mean, I don't know.
Fair enough.
Man, what I know macros. What is? Explain to me what macros is.
It's basically automating something within a Microsoft program. So with OneNote, for example, if I wanted to sort my tabs alphabetically, there's not really a function in OneNote to do that. So someone out there was smart enough to write a macros for it, so I can plug that into the Onetastic thing and then hit run, and it'll auto do it.
What
Dude,
does macros stand for?
That's
I don't know.
I need that. That's exactly what I need because inside OneNote, it's like you can't organize. You sometimes want to make things alphabetically.
Mhm.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Just be
It's
careful.
kind of like what you put in top of a spreadsheet in Excel when you're gonna.
Don't go over the top of the
Alphabetize.
macros, though. I have made some wildly confusing Excel spreadsheets by dumping getting way too weird.
I actually stopped using macros in Excel just because I was getting way too nuts with them.
Well, at a certain point, it's not Excel anymore. Like,
No,
you've
it's
written like
just
custom
like a
software
database.
that only you understand and nobody could possibly use, even you at some point.
Yeah.
Or it becomes like an Access. Like
Yeah, but except everything's better than Access. Access is like the worst software ever written.
really?
And I've known Access people that love Access, and I think there's something wrong with them. Like they're damaged mentally. Like they probably had bad things happen in their previous.
So I don't think I've opened Access since 2005 or 6 when I had to in a gen ed class.
Well, I mean, and it's a cool concept. I like what they did, but it's just Excel
Yeah.
with software components like tied into it.
Yep.
I mean, but it's all, if you look at the core of Access, it's a bunch of spreadsheets all tied together, and then with an interface, you throw a cover on it.
Yep.
But it's trash. I mean, it's an absolute trash heap to run long term with multiple users. I mean, it's great if you need to, like, if you want to organize something for your house, I could see it being useful. You wanted to have all of your tools in a database that you can search for how many flathead screwdrivers do I have. I don't know what you do if you have a lot of tools. I could see that being maybe useful, but as soon as you get like 5 or 6 people all using it at the same time, or 10 or 15, the thing's just untenable.
Yeah.
It's the word of the day. Untenable.
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 Do we get to do the Pee Wee Herman thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody knew it. Perfect.
I always like the chair.
Yeah, I did too. It was my favorite.
The chair was the best. Totally dating ourselves right now. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
there's some like 22-year-old kid watching this right now going,
Access.
these guys suck.
They call themselves a
Herman?
tech podcast.
Hold on, let me Google Pee Wee Herman. Oh, Jesus.
My kids love Pee Wee.
Get out of here, really?
So I started with Big Adventure, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, which Jax refuses to watch anymore because of the Large Marge scene. But then we started watching the TV show because it was on Netflix. And they love watching it.
Okay, I could see that.
I loved watching that when I was a kid.
It
was
is
awesome.
kind of timeless, dumb humor.
Yeah. There's nothing to date it.
I mean, you do know the only Pee Wee Herman joke I know, right?
Well, no.
2 guys got shot in a movie theater. 2 guys got shot in the back of the head in a movie theater. Abe Lincoln and the guy in front of Pee Wee Herman.
That's horrible.
Come on, I don't know a lot of jokes. I'm doing the best I can here. And it is horrible. You're correct. It's a terrible, terrible joke.
I don't know how you decided to say that.
I don't know. Do we have to back this thing up?
No.
Just roll
I think
forward.
we're okay. We're good.
Okay.
Keep rolling.
I didn't make the joke. All right, don't kill the messenger. I did propagate it now on the internet, so I apologize. Could have found it on your own. All right, everybody. It is October 27th, and today we are talking about open source software. Specifically, I think we're gonna probably hit on Linux pretty good.
Yeah, I would think so.
How do you not?
You have to.
Tyler, Jimmy, I'm Craig. Some of the stuff we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about open source software in general, just kind of hit what it is, why you might use it, what the purpose is, what do you care. We're going to talk about some of the more popular open source programs, and spoiler, you may be using one now. So I don't know, but we'll talk about them. We're going to hit it on Linux. What's that?
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Well, technically, I don't think Bitcoin would be open source.
It is open source. It's listed on the open source list.
I guess it is open source. Yeah, but you can't.
Ethereum's open source too.
I guess, yeah, you do have access to the source. You can't really change it. There's not open
Well,
development.
You're forking it.
So you're forking
Yeah.
it. So it would be a closed open source. It wouldn't be open for.
But we're not going to talk
yeah.
about crypto, right?
How long?
Actually, you
It
have
hasn't
to
even
talk
been a
about
minute, I
crypto.
don't think.
I don't even.
If the topic's open source, you have to talk about
Look,
crypto.
now you're seeding the crypto. You're just trying to make a point. And then we're going to talk about security with open source. I don't know how you don't.
Yeah,
So,
it's very important that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? I mean, that's all I had on my list of stuff to kind of cover. But is there anything that I missed in your research that you want to get into?
No, I think that's spot on.
I have a new word I want to talk about.
Lay it on me.
Tyler inspired me.
Is that the word? Tyler is. That's a long word.
Yeah, it's kind of long.
Cloptastic.
Oh,
Gonna hijack that.
you can't hijack a word that has your own name in it.
Yeah.
That's like giving yourself a nickname.
Well,
You can't do it.
I took the tastic that was added to the end of one that he said earlier.
Wait, you told me that your new word was phenomena.
One tastic.
See what I did there? Because it's Craig Stonehoff. Phenomena. I'm pretty phenomena. You're phenomena too.
Yeah, and I'm claptastic and you're phenomenal.
Yeah. You're, I got nothing.
You need-
No.
Macaulay doesn't really work that well for
You
us.
need a word. You need a word, Tyler.
But crack.
I have another one.
What's that?
If I had a doppelganger, it'd be Kloppeldoppel.
If you had a doppelganger, his hair would be gray on top and his beard would be dark.
Yeah, that's he would.
Everything else would be exactly the same, and the two of you would get along phenomenally. It would be weird.
Okay.
All right, so let's get into what is open source? Anybody want to tackle this? Like what? Like, do you want me to do this? It's because
Community-based software.
yeah, it's really what it is.
That's really all it is. Yeah.
That's all it is.
You can see the source code, whereas something like Microsoft or an Apple piece of software, you're not going to be able to see the skeleton essentially for the software. With something that's open source, you can see right back to the original development.
I'm fairly positive if you did ever see the actual source code for Apple, I think you're on a list somewhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And like, I would have people taste your food from that point forward because they're gonna put you down. Yeah, they protect that code like nobody's business.
It wasn't actually the Russians doing those hits over in Europe.
It was Apple. That guy knew too much.
Yeah.
Well, and Apple was originally based on Linux, right?
I think all of them came from Linux based, didn't they?
I get the idea.
I don't know about Microsoft. I thought Microsoft was kind of an offshoot of the old. I don't even know. Maybe it was. I have no idea.
No, I don't.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, I can't say because I'm not a tech guy, but it seems to me like open source software is actually just code floating around that's being shared. Like everybody's pulling from it. I would venture to guess that Microsoft, because I mean, if you go into Linux, I mean, things that are in Microsoft and Apple software, you have all the basic functions that belong to nobody. So,
No,
this is something I wanted to ask you guys about today.
What's that?
Was the fact that I get the impression open source coding is just floating around on the internet right now, and anybody can tap into it and grab a piece and incorporate it into software that they're designing.
I mean, yes and no. It depends on the open source software itself and how open it is. So, I mean, open source is a broad term, but very few softwares are just wildly just open. Most softwares have some sort of limitations. Either you have to submit changes for approval through somebody who's governing it, or you have to go through their GitLab to work with existing developers to get it approved. Like, there's usually not truly open source. It's usually started by someone and somebody's kind of owning it. Now, there are truly open source programs out there.
Yeah.
Like, just everybody's kicking in, they're developing. If it crashes, they all get in and they fix it. But at a certain point, by the time people like us are going to be introduced to it and we're going to have any type of useful functionality for the normal humans, there's some sort of organization to it, even if it's open. Somebody's making sure that you don't completely ruin the source code and just, destroy the brand name of CentOS or whatever it is. So truly open source. But yes, to your point, if you have access to the source code, you can't really maybe necessarily edit it without approval from the community, but you can copy it and you can make your own version. Why do you think there's 850 versions of Linux out there?
Yeah.
They download a distro of Linux and they say, I can do better. And then they start hacking it up and they start rewriting how Linux does what it does and how it interfaces with everything else. And next thing you know, it's so different, they give it its own name. I mean, how many versions of Linux are out there? I mean, I don't even have a list here, but you got Debian, you got Fedora, you got Red Hat, got
Mint OS,
you got Mint OS, CentOS, Puppy Linux,
Raspbian.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many versions of Linux out there, and they pop up and they vanish sometimes too, but they pop up all the time. Somebody has a slightly different, better way to do it, they think, and they start writing it.
Well, so before I get away from it, so the guy that what is that called?
Ubuntu. That was what
Ubuntu, yeah.
I love Ubuntu.
So that dude Jonathan Riddell, right? He created that, and eventually got kicked out. So he was the creator and the founder of it, but they were.
Isn't that classic?
But so this brings it's almost like today, like somebody builds a corporation, right? Then they sell shares in the stock. Well, then they'll keep 51% so that they can always maintain ownership. But when it comes to like open source software, it's just community of people that have come together, and then and this is the same way crypto's structured. You have a community of people, and it's going to be the most influential people in there. In crypto, it's whoever you have some group of people that have the most amount of coins or whatever. If you get so many coins, then you're entitled to governmental like rights, which means you get to vote on issues that come up. So I'm assuming this is the same thing that's happening in open source, and it almost seems to me like cryptos come from open source.
It's the same community. Yeah. So the guys that wrote the original crypto, we don't know who they are, but it's 100% this type of community.
Right. Once there's a community involved, and now you have essentially a board or whatever it is, 100 people, 1,000 people, they decide, okay, this guy's ideas are taking us in the wrong direction that the community doesn't agree on, and we want him out. So it's like that, that owner doesn't really necessarily maintain ownership as the community grows in that.
Well, and what you have to understand, though, too, is a lot of times in the open source world, if they were in it for ownership, they wouldn't do it as open source.
Right.
So a lot of these guys don't want to have overreaching control. You know, they're trying to build something to throw it out there. Now, it's an ego shot to get thrown off your own project. I mean, that's never going to make anybody happy. But, you know, you're not building an open source program because you want to maintain 51% ownership and you don't want to get Batmaned by the board. Because it was Batman that got voted off his own board, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that comes to crypto, like with Ethereum. So you had the spin-off of Ethereum. You had Bitcoin Cash spin-off because of differences in opinions.
Yep.
Ethereum Cardano spun off. Charles was one of the founding guys in Cardano. So people are going this. I found this chart on Linux.
But it makes sense because Linux is the same way. So most of these Linux platforms are specialized.
Yeah.
So most Linux platforms are designed to do singular things. So you've got Ubuntu's a little bit more general, Fedora's a little bit more general, you know, Red Hat, but Red Hat's more designed towards servers. So Red Hat's specifically kind of a server platform replacement or competitor. And then you've got, you know, when I build my Raspberry Pis, I'm not building on Ubuntu. You know, I'm using Raspbian, or I'm using if I'm doing like a gaming simulator, I'm using
A custom.
something that's specifically for game emulation.
So are you guys doing this a lot for customers? Do you have customers?
No. For customers, we don't like touching open source because it becomes real tough to support. Now, for us internally, we play with open source all the time. So all of our phone systems, and we've got tons and tons of phone systems out there. That's our platform. We build them all in Linux. So it's all built on open. So now the licensing for the actual phone processing software, we didn't build it on a free version of Asterisk. We pay for the licensing for that so that we have constant development happening. We always know it's state of the art and that we have support access in case something goes horribly wrong. But yeah, we build them all in Linux. So every phone system runs on Linux. We only host on Linux. So I'm a huge Apache fan. I love Apache. I love my PHP. Or MySQL, PHP MySQL. I've deployed LAMP servers. I've deployed, Elastics for database indexing. So, you know, those are all open source programs that we deploy. We just don't do it. Even our primary application that we run our entire company on, which is our ticketing system and our CRM, we wrote that. The whole thing's written on Linux. It's all, you know, a combination of JavaScript and PHP MySQL and, you know, a bunch of database tools all running in a Linux environment. So I am a big Linux fan, but I would never sell it to somebody else because I don't know if anybody watching this has ever played around with Linux. It's a pain in the ass to deal with.
I say even the ones with GUI are kind of terrible. I mean, they work for what, depending on what you're looking for, but
you're not going to want to run it as your primary desktop.
If I had to run Linux all day, I wouldn't be very happy. It's fun. I have a couple Raspberry Pis that just have Debian installed on them.
Okay.
With a GUI, and that's just more for like I have some of my Raspberry Pi split between two different systems.
Okay.
I saw the term Raspberry Pi, but can you elaborate on that?
So Raspberry Pi, I guess, in some ways is an open source computer.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's a project that was started, I don't even know how long ago.
Like you can order computers from
They're about this big. A Raspberry Pi is about that big. It's
all it is a motherboard.
Motherboard.
A tiny little motherboard.
Maybe some ports on it.
Yep.
It was big in the development community because you could buy things like hats, as they called it. So the original Raspberry Pis didn't have Wi-Fi. So they'd have USB ports, you could plug something in, but you could get a Wi-Fi hat that had it integrated.
What's a Wi-Fi hat?
It's essentially just another board that connects to the Raspberry Pi that gives it Wi-Fi capabilities, the ability to be connected wirelessly. So it's an open source board. At its base, you use an SD card with Linux installed on it. Plug that in. That's your operating system. That's your memory. But the board is just ports and the intelligence or the motherboard.
A normal human being would probably never use a Raspberry Pi. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think they'd discover it as quickly.
Yeah, and I don't think they would enjoy it. Like a normal person that's not into computers would probably not enjoy the experience of a Raspberry Pi, because when you get it, there's nothing on it.
Yeah, it's
It's a motherboard, and that's it. Every component you want to buy has to be bought separately. You can buy kits that come with a lot of the stuff, but I mean, it doesn't even come with a power switch. So you got to buy your own. You usually got to buy your own power switch. You got to rig it up. You've got to buy your own SD card. You got to download
Power switch, but you mean an on-off button?
Yeah, it doesn't even have an off.
yeah. It's just plug unplug.
Yeah, if it's plugged in, it's on, and if you unplug it, it's off. I mean, I'm telling you, this is basic. And you can buy these things for like, it's a functional computer.
And so, what do
for
you
like
use it
$50.
for,
The
Tyler?
board itself is $35.
There you go.
Why did you get it, and what do you use it for?
So I had originally I got my first Raspberry Pi because I was into what's called Arduino, which is an open source microprocessor. So you could build like robots and stuff with it, which I just found because I was in an industry that we used a lot of microprocessors and just wanted to explore it. When I started learning about Raspberry Pi, they had something called RetroPie, which is a game emulator. So, I wanted my son to play the video games I grew up playing. So I got Raspberry Pi, installed RetroPie, and then he could play like Super Mario Brothers.
What was the first game you downloaded?
Super Mario Brothers.
Was it?
Yeah.
Mine was I went Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I wanted Sonny to see Donkey Kong. She hated it. She's like, this game is stupid.
Really? My
Yeah,
kids
and-
like them.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, I should download that one for her. She would love it.
Donkey Kong Jr.?
Didn't do Donkey Kong Jr. I did do the original Pac-Man. And I did, remember Earthworm Jim? Mm-hmm. I downloaded Earthworm Jim.
I just put that on ours not too long
Did you?
ago. Yeah.
God, that game is frustrating. I
Was
don't
it?
remember it being that frustrating.
It was terrible.
That was a terrible game.
Asteroids?
Asteroids. I never did the Asteroids thing. You could definitely get it, and it's out there.
Yeah, you can. I think PlayStation 1 is. I mean, there's emulators for PS2 and stuff, but it's not. The Raspberry Pi is quite underpowered. It was just recently I bought the Raspberry Pi 4 to switch my RetroPie over to.
Okay.
Because it had a higher processing power. PlayStation 1 plays a little bit better, whereas before it would just freeze up.
Gotcha. To give you an idea, I have every single gaming system deployed on my RetroPie ever made up to PlayStation 1.
Yep.
So I've got Dreamcast, all the Segas, all the Nintendos. I've got the Ataris, the 5200, the 6100, whatever they were. I got all of them. Every single system is on there. Not every game, because you got to download the games individually, and then you have to install them on your system. But I can. So I go on the internet sometimes to just look for a new game for Sony, and I'll just grab the SD card, put the game on the SD card, plug it back in, and it'll put itself on.
You're doing it so old school. You gotta set up SSH and just transfer it right from your PC.
No, I should. Well, the thing is, she doesn't play it, so I stopped working on it.
Yeah.
I did it more as a fun project with her. I made her build it.
That was a good idea.
So the same thing, if you look over there in that corner, that PC right there, which is our virtual reality PC,
Yeah.
I made her build that.
That's a good idea.
So-
Have to try that
My
with
brother got a arcade game, a box, and then they had a computer. He put a computer in there, and the computer has all these old arcade classics on it. So you can flip through.
It's probably
I was gonna say I feel like you crack that open, it's a Raspberry Pi.
probably, or maybe
I mean,
little
I-
bit more advanced than a Raspberry Pi, but basically
it's based on-
It looks like that. I mean, it looks like a tower. I don't know what's inside it. But
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think a lot of those, like, do you ever see those little gaming systems that like Nintendo released and stuff?
Yep.
And then you just plug them in. I feel like that was their way to curb people downloading RetroPie and installing it, or they were just building it.
Dude,
off
I want that.
Raspberry
I want to get one of those
It's
games
awesome.
with all the
Just
old
build it.
arcade stuff.
Gotta get nerdy, man.
Seriously,
You should go to the dark side.
$75.
Should I do it?
It's.
full kit.
I feel like you wouldn't enjoy it as much as Tyler and I enjoyed it. I think you would have fun, like putting it together, and then when you got into the software side of things, it would probably get irritating.
And for the most part with RetroPie, if you don't really want to mess with it, it's download the distribution, copy it to the SD card and plug it in, and then you're set up. So you don't have to do any of the crazy stuff. Just add
That's
games.
true. You didn't, and just update it.
Yeah.
Dude, we should do a show and build a freaking arcade classic.
We should just do a show and an hour of us, having a full-on, fully game tournament.
We should help everybody build an arcade classic.
Fine, we'll play Joust. Joust.
Joust.
Tournament. Yes, Joust.
Yeah.
This guy gets it. Joust was awesome.
Yeah, I got Joust.
Do you
Joust
really?
2 though.
I just Joust 2
It's
was right there. They're
it's
all
for
good.
my PlayStation 1. It's an arcade classics game.
Ah, okay.
It has like Beer Tapper, Joust, Moon Patrol.
Beer Tapper. That was the dumbest game ever.
I
don't think you can't even sell that now, could you? Like,
it's Root Beer Tapper.
it's Root Beer Tapper. Okay, I could see that. I could see
Politically correct, The woke made that one.
I love how we have to change Root Beer Tapper or Beer Tapper to Root Beer Tapper, but WAP is still like a huge song. that we
WAP.
play on the
Oh yeah. That's because she's on the
WAP.
right side.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I got it.
If you don't know, you're not missing anything.
Yeah.
No, I know what song you're talking about though.
It's like my favorite meme from like Facebook is we had to cancel Baby It's Cold Outside, but WAP is the number one song in America. I always laugh every time I hear that. No, but that stuff's cool. And Raspberry Pis, I would agree with you. Raspberry Pis are kind of like the open source hardware.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was made for. It'll only really run Linux. You're not going to put Windows on that thing.
That said, somebody did figure out a way to. Put
No.
IoT.
There's a way to do it,
but you don't want to.
You're not going to.
Yeah.
Like, it's not what it's for. If you're going to put Windows on something, build a PC.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, there's already a roadmap to that.
So I'm thinking about taking my old Dell and I want to put Linux on it and everything open source. Like I'm not going to buy any software.
Do it. I would recommend Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Which one?
Ubuntu.
Yeah.
But Ubuntu Desktop's a great OS. Mm-hmm. I mean, but the thing is, and you'll realize once you start running it, it's not Windows. And
So-
it won't be Windows.
So what I found interesting as I was doing all the research, and you have all these, and you guys spit out a lot of the categories. So the way it was broken down, and I got a reference because it's not second nature to me. So the way, if we're helping people understand what it is, I found this really cool article which we should put the link on, and it referenced it made a what's it when they compared it to a car. Like
An analogy.
An analogy. There you go. So I knew that word was going to pop out. I just couldn't get
I don't know why that made me laugh so hard.
I just couldn't get it to come out of my brain. So anyway, they
You get Jimmy a dictionary just to keep on hand.
We don't need it. You speak fluent German.
yeah,
True.
yeah, that was cloptastic, dude.
That was Kloptastic. That was phenomenal.
So it's related, like it called the operating it called what it was Windows NT was their kernels, right? So I saw the term kernels. So Linux was a kernel and Windows NT was a kernel, and Mac uses XNU. That's its kernel, which is like the motor of the car. And then everything they put in around it, the operating is it the operating system or like the visual aspect of it becomes like the body, and then like if you're upgrading wheels and stuff like that. So it was pretty interesting. It helped me understand it.
Gotcha.
It helped put it in a term for a person who's not computer literate or tech literate to be able to relate it.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense.
So it was a great. I thought it was a great link. I think we should put on there.
I'll tell you, in the computer world, for some reason, cars always work as an analogy.
Yeah, I feel like you told me that on day one, and it's proven true every day.
They always do. It is weird how well that works every single time. So go ahead. Sorry.
So like they called like distributions, right? So distributions were
Distros.
was like, well, they broke it down into being a shell, which was the distribution being like the platform that's operating, and this is the what you were saying. What's that one you told me? Ubuntu. So that's like,
It was an analogy, Jimmy.
yeah. So they have all these operating systems, and then you can like customize like the different, like if you want a music software, you want a calendar, you want to like, so all those applications, you like custom build everything.
Right,
And you sort of build, like when I get a computer, if you buy Windows, it has all these programs that are pre-installed in it, and you don't know what they are. You don't use half of them, right? But when you build a Linux system, you get to pick everything, and you know exactly what's on there.
Yeah, see, I think
Roughly.
half the reason. Go ahead. What you're
No, I was just gonna say roughly, and you have to be careful because there are a lot of developers out there who will make stuff for it, but if there's something you want that's not there, then you need an advanced knowledge of how to make it. And it's not just, a simple thing. Like when you look at Linux, like even I would say in some of my GUI-based Linux installations, I still have to go into the terminal quite a bit to do certain things.
Absolutely.
Which is tricky if you either got to be really good at Google or know what the hell you're doing.
Understand the terms. That's
Yeah.
what's the most challenging thing is when I was looking at it, is understanding the terms that are being used and linking everything together. And I found this killer map of Linux, and it was a map, and it showed like everything from how Linux started with the, what was it, the stack thing? What was the first?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Man.
You need better notes, or maybe a bigger screen.
Yeah, no.
You got to upgrade and get off that phone.
Yeah, where is that?
Where's we'll get you an iPad.
It's
Or sorry, we'll get you
put
a
everything
Linux
in
pad.
It'll put everything in it.
Linux
I don't have.
We'll
I
get
don't
you an
have,
Ubuntu
Android.
pad.
An
yeah,
Android.
I don't have my
What?
notes
Yeah.
wide enough, and it's shrunk down to like an inch, and now everything's like real long. So, but
back home.
it like kept spawning off, and they have this whole schematic and this diagram about how everything would jump.
Well, what
Like
I always
from
thought,
different-
what I always thought was cool is, you ever look at an evolution tree?
That's like what
It
it
looks
is.
like that.
Yeah,
And you'll see like entire races of Linux will die off.
yeah.
Like entire like
Or
branches will die
they'll
off.
jump it to another.
Yes.
What do you call it?
Like a new,
Distribution?
basically it's a different distro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Or
a
they'll
different-
merge with another distro and then they'll
Yeah.
become a new distro. Yeah.
It's like a map. It's a crazy tree map, and it shows you everything.
Well,
like-
and it makes sense because you've got millions and millions of people all contributing to this code, and sometimes it'll diverge, sometimes it'll recombine. I will say one thing that's really interesting is how much influence the open source community has had on Windows and Mac. I mean, most of Windows features, not most, I shouldn't say most, that's an unfair claim. A lot of Windows features are born from Bill Gates going, you've got a great piece of open source software there, we're going to buy it.
Yep.
And if you don't sell it to us, we'll destroy you. I mean, the guy was brutal, but I mean,
And that's what I was saying earlier at the beginning of the show, how it's like this, like it's like code that's just out there that everybody keeps piling in and adding to.
and I like Linux. I go, what we don't want to do is we don't want to imply to people that running Linux is a valid substitute for running a well-defined operating system. So, I mean, now open source, we're talking about two different things here. So
Yeah.
Linux is just an operating system. So it's just like Windows, it's just like Mac to a certain degree. It's like Chrome OS, a little bit different, but and the idea is that you have this thing runs your computer and you install applications on it. That's all Linux is. So Linux is cool, but we don't want to like overinflate its role in the community. But it is definitely an awesome resource. It's an awesome way to run a computer if you know what you're doing. The cost of ownership is high, meaning, you know, you need to know how to take care of that. I mean, it's like having a puppy. I mean, you got to walk it, you got to feed it, you got to, I mean, it's not going to take care of itself. It is not designed to be worry-free. It is designed to give you unfettered flexibility and to be an alternative to things that, you know, a lot of people in the Linux community just flat out hate Microsoft and Apple. They just up like visceral hatred. You talk to them and they get like a little vomity about it. So there's a real emotional commitment here to the open source community, and Linux is just the avenue into that community. I'm a Microsoft guy. I like Linux. I said that earlier. I like Microsoft because I can get the stability and the reliability of a well-defined, well-crafted, well-built operating system. Now, if somebody's going to argue with me on that, I guarantee it. But let's be fair, it is. I mean, it's a, you know, whatever. I get the updates, they're just going to happen. I don't have to worry about it, I don't have to run them. But I also can still install open source applications. That's why I like Microsoft. So I can still download and install my, whatever, I can use KeyPass if I want to. I can still run that whether on the cloud or locally. Or I can run Firefox, that's my favorite browser.
Yep.
I can just run Firefox right on Windows, it's open source. So I can run Vlc Media Player. I love VLC. I don't know if you've ever used it, but that's an open source media player. It plays everything. And, you know, I'm not going to, you know, I don't run LibreOffice, but I could.
You could.
You can
yep.
put that on Windows. Thunderbird, again, I don't run it. I'm not a big Thunderbird fan. I think it's kind of a dead program, but some people still run
It
it.
serves its purpose.
It does.
You don't want to pay for Outlook. Yep, Thunderbird.
Absolutely. And then there's some smaller ones I don't think I could live without. I mean, Putty's open source, right?
Putty, yep.
I mean, I
It's
use
open source.
Putty 20 times a day to SSH into things or to access. You know, I use FileZilla
Yep.
all the time. I mean, FileZilla's open source. I think isn't Notepad++ open source?
Notepad++ is.
I love that.
We wouldn't be able to record this podcast without.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is
you're
open
right.
source.
This whole podcast is
OBS.
open source. Yeah, and even so, I mean, so there is more than one way to skin an open source. Like, you don't have to run Linux to run open source.
Right.
Now, I will say, if you're running Mac, you're not in the open source world. And they're not going to put up with that crap. You're probably not going to be running too much open source stuff. But if you're running Mac, you don't want to.
But it looked, the most of the platforms I looked at resembled Mac.
And there are open source programs for Mac.
They look like like Mac's layout with everything across the bottom, like the operating system. I mean, some of them are specifically to look like Windows, but for the most part, all the ones I looked at look like Mac.
No, wait till you see Windows 11. It kind of looks like Mac.
Yeah, everything kind of looks like Mac.
Yeah, they all rip each other off. And right now, Mac is cool.
Yeah.
So they're all doing Mac now. They'll do something else 3 years from now. I've been through so many rotations in the IT world. So it depends who's hip and who's in. So, but you're right.
Stackware was that. What I was trying to say. The
Stackware?
Yeah, that's where Linux started. It was like that was the
Okay.
first Linux,
Gotcha.
and then it started spinning off the different.
I was always a CentOS guy. That was where I started on Linux. And that's all command line. I don't think there even is a GUI for that, is there?
Cent? Not as far as I'm
What
aware.
is GUI? You guys keep referring.
A graphical user interface.
Yeah, it's like what you click on in Windows.
Yeah, sorry.
Like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
true Linux distribution is going to be just a black screen where you type commands into, like sudo apt get. And
Well,
all
yeah,
that
there's
stuff.
a lot. Yeah, so
Never
there's
forget
there's a
sudo.
lot of those now.
Yeah.
That's what I looked at. I looked at about I looked at a bunch that looked pretty good, like Ubuntu, that Ubuntu, the one that they make like about 5 or 6 ones that look.
We got to take a break, but you know what I really want to do? I want to schedule a follow-up. After Jimmy, we should make Jimmy run Linux
Yeah.
for like a month.
Yeah.
And then have a follow-up show where Jimmy tells us all the reasons he effing hates
That's what
Linux.
I'm down. I'm down. I'm gonna make
You're in?
I'm gonna make my
The
laptop
Linux
all
challenge?
Linux. Yeah.
Oh, we got to get a trophy if he makes it too.
Yeah.
Like not a good trophy, like a plastic piece of crap.
I was looking for the platforms I want to use, but so
Or a scepter.
An open source trophy.
I was looking to
It's gonna look
use.
like, be like a book that's open, and it
We
just
just
say
pick stuff.
source inside.
Yeah, exactly. That's good.
But see, there's like
We
desktop.
should spell his name wrong on it too. Should call him like Jami,
I'm gonna do it.
or what do you? We'll just call it Cloptastic.
Cloptastic, yeah.
It'll be the Cloptastic Award for
If I make it.
stick to itness.
Yeah.
for I don't know. We'll come up with it. We'll come up with it. Suggestions, always welcome. All right, we're gonna take a break. We'll be back after these words.
Yeah.
Thank you. Something like Ubuntu, there's going to be a lot of standard default drivers in there, but it's not guaranteed, especially on an older computer.
What
Well,
your-
they make like desktop environments. I mean, they're gonna have things that you can download that are somewhat.
Not necessarily. I would tell you if you're going to do it to at least have another device nearby so you can Google.
Are we back in here?
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
That's fine.
Because
Or if we split the hard drive, I have a terabyte hard drive.
Well, no, I wouldn't. I mean, I would say if you're, like what I'll do, because I'm not very knowledgeable with a lot of the Linux stuff, is there's things that I know, but there's a lot of things I don't know. So I always have either another computer beside me or my phone so that I can Google what I'm trying to do. Because there's guys out there who just can whip it out.
Yeah. Whoa.
Well, yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
It's good. It's got-
Wow.
Not like it wasn't already.
It's not that kind of Linux.
Wait, I'm not so sure I want to participate.
I think it'll be fun though, but no help.
Yeah.
No help from Laughing Rock.
Not from us, no.
No, he's on it. He's on his own.
Yeah.
It's
So-
don't be calling me at 9:00 at night saying that
No,
I
I
can't get to
won't.
my Bitcoin.
So, yeah, that's the other thing. Like, that's the other thing I was thinking. Like, what if you put, like, that's my biggest fear is having my exchanges safe. I mean,
Look, you do not run Linux exclusive. You just don't do it.
but like, would I even want to log into my crypto accounts
They're web-based?
from Linux?
I mean, yeah, they're all web-based,
Operating.
right? Or are you
Yeah,
downloading the
everything's-
application?
No, everything's web based.
Man, they're fine.
Yeah, fun.
Well, there's like MetaMask. That's like a
Browser extension type deal.
browser extension stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know what? All right, fine. You want to talk? This is a nice dovetail into security.
Yeah.
All right, so there was, I don't know the current numbers, so I'll have to look those up. But I remember, this was not that long ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, They did a full historical analysis of security on the big three operating systems. They did Mac, they did Windows, and they did Linux. I don't remember exactly which distribution of Linux that they ran their testing on and what they went back historically on, but it was one of the big ones. I think it might have been Red Hat. I don't know.
Yeah.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
Because that's it doesn't matter. They kind of treated it just as Linux. You want to hear what's crazy?
Yeah.
The most secure of the three. You know what I'm going to tell you? Which one was the most secure?
Linux.
Windows.
Windows.
Was it?
That's not true though, because everyone tells me Mac is the most secure.
Oh, well, if everybody tells you that, then it must be
I
true.
gotta believe it.
Did you read it on the internet?
Probably saw it on the internet. The bathroom
Google
attendant at the restaurant told me that too.
Well, the guy knows his stuff.
The dishwasher at the restaurant?
He had an iPhone. I had to believe him.
All right, well, I'm fine. All right, you want to go that route? What was number two? And I'm going to tell you, it was a close second. It was almost awesome. Linux.
Yeah.
Number three, by a long shot, Mac. It was the least secure.
And that's being promoted as the most?
Yeah, do you know why? Because nobody writes viruses for Mac, because it only has, 8% market share?
Not enough money in it.
There's no money in it. They don't have servers. So even if they do gain control of your Mac, it's small potatoes. They're not going to get to anything because they're going to get to your Mac. Like, it's only your stuff. So they don't do servers, so there's no point in breaching it for a large-scale attack. And they only have less than 10% market share. So if you write a virus specifically to target Mac, best case scenario, even with 100% infiltration, you're leaving 92% of the market untouched.
Yeah.
There is no mathematical reason to write a virus for Mac. They found that Mac is just riddled with holes, but nobody exploits them because
worth anyone's time.
It's not worth my time. Exactly.
It's funny because my brother just decided to buy a Mac. I was helping him with what Dell to get and stuff, and he's just like, I just bought a Mac. I'm like, why? What's the most secure? I said, really think about this. You really think it's the most secure just because they have the best security? Or is it because hackers run a business and they want to go where the money is? And once I put it in that position for me, I guess that makes sense.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
No.
I mean, technically, he's right. It's the most secure because if you're flying under the radar using something that nobody wants to hack, you are secure.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I'm not saying that Mac's not secure. I'm saying that Mac's not the reason Mac's not secure.
Right.
Like, they're not doing anything to be secure. They're just not very good at selling.
They're just unpopular.
I mean,
They're secure by unpopular vote.
Yeah, basically they're secured by nobody giving a crap. And Windows is super secure, but everybody wants to hit Windows because you've got immediate infiltration of just about every business network on Earth. Plus 91% of every PC user. So you write yourself an effective virus for Windows and booyah, you're guaranteed to have distribution.
You know what they do now?
Windows is a victim of their own success.
So in the crypto world, what they're doing with the hackers is if they're rewarding them. So guys are hacking into exchanges or into different coins, and they'll actually pay them millions as a reward and bring them on board to work for them.
Well, yeah, that's white hat
hacking.
Yeah, it's white hat hacking.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
That's how a lot of the modern security industry got started. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, it's pretty genius.
I do white hat hacking. I mean, I do that.
Yeah, we did talk about this when
customers asked
when
me
you pulled up to that dude's office and you hacked it.
Yep, absolutely. That wasn't a white hat hacking. That was just me being a young prick.
That was your early days.
That was my early days when I was young and
You're just getting started.
Old man Stonehow, the wise, mature version that would have a beard if he could grow one.
You would sit at the
would never do
desk
that.
with the customer now and show him how you.
I would be confused and ask Tyler to take a look. Be like, Tyler, what's he doing? Am I inside? Yeah. And I'm getting older. That's what you do.
Tyler, take care of this. I got to order pencils for the office.
Where's Maurice?
Deb, can you get the pencil order in?
Yeah, no, I'm useless. Thanks for bringing that up. It's a good thing. Backside of this podcast is going great for me. I like this. No, I would wonder. I would like to see the updated numbers on that. I wonder if Windows is still, but I feel like Windows has done a lot, and I think mostly it was a perception thing. But they have done a ton, in a lot of ways, a ton of things I hate, but I know it's good. But like forcing updates and things, they never forced updates in the past. Now it's like, you got 3 days and it's just going to shut your computer off on you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they are doing a lot of things, but you got to remember, they were fighting perception. I mean, even if only, 0.01% of all PCs got hacked and 10% of all Macs got hacked, it would still be more PCs. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how many PCs there are out there. So, in just a numbers game, they looked bad.
Yeah.
So, I think they've done a good job. Now, Linux does a good job.
Before you go away from that, I just did an update on my computer, and none of my Microsoft Office works.
Well, yeah.
I can't open any of them.
Look, I'm not telling you Windows is great.
Thanks for the update,
Now,
by the way.
I'm just telling you that they're better than others. Maybe I don't know. Look, Microsoft is a pain in the ass. All right, anybody in the industry knows that. They really, really are. They write crappy patches that break your stuff. They force you to do things. Like, they're just irritating.
They're getting mad at me because I won't upgrade.
They're getting mad at you because you won't upgrade. They're just, I don't know. Yeah, they'll probably do that too. I'm sure all sorts of weird stuff will start happening as soon as Windows 11 is fully absorbed. They're going to push you out. But, isn't that the classic Apple argument too? As soon as a new Apple phone comes
every
out.
tech company, planned obsolescence is a very real thing.
Absolutely. I can't prove it, but I believe it.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah. I mean, so, I'm not sitting here touting Microsoft as a great company or as the end-all be-all. What I am saying is that Microsoft fills a niche between the complete open source of Linux with the wild, wild west experience of a computer and the complete Gestapo Nazi, you do what I say of Apple. I don't know. That was supposed to be a German accent, but I feel like that might
it works.
You're German. Is that insulting? Aren't you German?
I have German ancestry, yes.
All right, so you didn't get mad at that one?
No.
So I'm cool.
I
I did.
We were here after all of that, so.
Are you German too?
Yeah. That upset me a little bit.
Should I be sitting here?
What?
Oh, I'm American.
I was saying I'm American. What are you talking
Oh, okay, cool. I don't have enough
No, I
in
don't-
me to be anything. I don't know what I am. I have like 6% of one thing.
You're
It's
full
like,
mutt.
I am full on mud. That's how.
You're the true melting pot. Mm-hmm. True American.
Yeah.
That's why I'm gorgeous. I didn't make it that way. America did. Thanks, Abe Lincoln. I don't know what that means. They sit. That's why they've been so successful. They sit in the middle. They give you enough convenience that you feel like you got your stuff under control, but they give you enough freedom that you feel like you still have some control. And it's a knife stance. And they've overstepped at times, and their user base has turned on them hard. Mm-hmm. And they pulled back. They know where they live. They live in that fine seam between full control and anarchy. And I am not an Apple guy, but I do own a Mac. And I like using my Mac. And I'm not a Linux guy, but I do build a lot of stuff on Linux, and I really appreciate what Linux brings to the table. So, I don't know. I don't know what any of that means. I'm just yabbering here. Somebody say something else so I can stop talking. I'm just going to keep going.
Have we even hit the agenda yet? Or are we on?
This show has an agenda?
Our name literally tells us that we're gonna break it, so
Yeah.
we're good.
Actually,
All right.
wait, I'm looking at it.
We've gone.
Holy crap, we actually did pretty good.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Got through everything.
Not everything.
Not
but we're
every-
doing
Well,
okay.
I think we could elaborate on some of the things too. But so what I noticed was that they're like you go back to the graphic interface thing. So there are communities now. They're building graphical interface. So I guess they call them
For Linux distros.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they call them desktop environments. So now somebody goes and they'll go. God, I can't go back and forth with the verbiage because I can't.
Just make up a word.
What's
Just-
that one you kept
Just
saying?
Jimmy it.
Definitely Jimmy it. Go wildcard.
Yeah,
Do it.
the distributions.
Wait,
Distro.
that was
So
the word.
we just said it.
no, it's that weird word, Ubuntu.
Oh, Ubuntu. All right, so you're
Ubuntu.
talking about an actual. Just say Linux. We'll
So the Ubuntu.
we'll jump in.
So there's a handful of the. What is that? That's the distribution. And there's-
Ubuntu is the name of that distro.
right.
so
So there's really like 5 core distros that everything spawned off of, like that.
There really are.
Yeah,
the Ubuntu is actually on is on that.
Ubuntu's been around since like
Debian or Debian.
Debian.
Right,
We
so
use
Debian is where
Debian's what we
Ubuntu.
build our phone systems on.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Debian is actually a main core that has spawned a ton. That's like
Oh,
the,
yeah.
that's like the gigantic monster of
And I like
Linux.
Debian, but there's again, I don't think the core version of Debian. There is no GUI for that. I don't think, is there?
So I don't know about the core. I know there's Debian Lite.
Yeah, I
which
know
does
there
not
are
include-
versions of Debian that have a GUI associated with them, but I don't think if you just go straight Debian.
Linux Mint is running on Debian and
Mint
on,
OS.
Mint OS, yep.
Yep.
and
I
it,
like Mint OS.
I do too. That was my first jump into Linux.
Was it?
Mint.
It
That's a good
runs
place to
off-
start.
Yeah.
it runs off on another branch of Debian too.
Is it weird that I feel like it smells good?
Yeah, that's. I think I really
Mint?
like Mint tea, which is what drew me to.
I kind of just, and I can always feel like I can smell it whenever I'm working with it. I'm like, I feel like I know it's not real. I know it's my head, but it's a great name. Whoever came up with that name is probably stands for something dumb,
Probably.
like multi-international naming
Terminal.
transit. Yeah, terminal, and it's like, oh, well, now you ruined it. It's like,
So the Linux Mint runs on the Ubuntu and on the Debian. So
Okay.
so when Ubuntu first came out, then Linux Mint followed it, and then they got worried that maybe Ubuntu wouldn't survive, and then they went back to Debian, and they run on both of those strains now. I don't know what you call it,
Yeah.
but anyway, so like the
I'm
platform.
fascinated by this evolution.
I am.
Yeah, it really
Like,
is.
what's
Yeah.
this
It's
blue
really
line?
neat. It's really neat. But so then when these guys spin off like with Mint, then they'll say, okay, well we're gonna make our desktop environment and we're gonna run it on Ubuntu, or we're gonna make our desktop environment and we're gonna run it on SOSE or whatever. You know what I mean? And so then these guys are like saying, okay, well we like your system, but then your system we don't like aspects of it, so we're gonna
Yep.
create this
And that's the
avenue,
beauty
and
of
then
open source.
yeah,
That's what open source is. And eventually, the idea here, I mean, this is Darwinism in the computer world. That's all it is. Like, it's this constant evolution where the weak die off and the strong rise up. The ultimate idea here is that at some point, a king of Linux will kind of appear, or you will end up with 1,000 Linuxes all targeted towards a very specific function that, you use Linux in a unique way, or both. But it should keep heading in that direction. It should keep evolving in that specialize and right now I would say the general ones. Ubuntu does a great job of being a general Linux distribution. You can almost install almost anything on it. The GUI is well defined. It runs well. There are built-in drivers, so you don't have all the headaches of trying to distribute Linux. Ubuntu's solid. Red Hat, obviously solid. I mean, but you do have to pay for Red Hat.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not Fedora. I'm not a Fedora
That's
fan.
right. Fedora.
But Fedora is a big one too. These are the general ones that all have GUIs. And those three are kind of like, they've kind of risen to the top as the big three GUI-based Linux distros. Now, the problem is Linux people don't like to just use what they're told. By their very nature, they are nonconformists. They want to write in their own code. They want to customize. They want to build. So, hence, you're talking to a guy who likes OS, that builds phone systems on Debian, that runs Ubuntu on his computer. Like, even I've got probably who has Raspbian and RetroPie.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I'm not even a heavy Linux guy, and I've probably got 6-7 distros of Linux that I run on a regular basis. So
it seems like
that forking will never stop because nerds are weird like that.
It seems like where we're going in the world with technology, it almost seems to make more sense for people to understand Linux than to lock into using.
I will tell you what
Microsoft
I have
or-
learned about people in technology over 20 years in the industry, and that is that the people that can understand Linux would probably enjoy understanding Linux. There is a significant portion of the population that will not.
Yeah.
They're just not wired that way. And there are things I'm not good at. We all have things. I'm never going to be a professional football player. It's not going to happen. I am terrible at reading insurance documents. I don't know why.
I'm not alone.
I can't. They don't make sense. They just turn into a bunch of words that don't fit together. I can't remember names. Like, there are things I am not good at. Likewise, there is a significant portion of the population that just is never going to be good at that. There's going to be a thing that will cause more stress than it will solve. There's a reason why an iPad is so dumbed down. Is because there are people that just want to be able to use technology and will never want to understand how it works or care or necessarily be in a position to really be able to wrap their head around it.
Yeah.
Their skill may lay somewhere else. And that's why companies like mine exist. So I think you're never going to see that type of adoption of a Linux because it assumes that everybody has the capacity of getting that deep into computers, and they don't.
Or it assumes that maybe people want to know what the computers are doing.
And they don't. People don't.
What people are doing with computers to you.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix a car, and I run them every day.
Yeah.
I need to have a mechanic. So there are.
Well, that was okay back when they just had engines and moving parts, but now they've got computers. Now it's like the computers are like watching you and tracking you and following what you do. What's that?
Oh, I'm just singing. Sorry.
So do you think people, when we've evolved to that point, you'd think people want to know, like?
No.
No.
The better technology gets, the less people want to know.
Yes.
Nobody asks how their microwave works.
No, you're absolutely right.
And you know what? I could take 10 random people on the street. I guarantee you not a single one of them can tell me how an air conditioner works. I guarantee it. I'd be lucky enough to pick like an HVAC guy.
Yeah.
But how an air conditioner works, they'd be like, well, it makes your air cold. I'd be like, well, how does it do that? Well, I don't know.
Well, doesn't it?
People don't, when something works so well that it just works, they no longer want to know.
So if I understand correctly how a microwave works, it actually destroys all the nutrients in food, right?
That's how it works. Like
that process heats
it
everything up.
obliterates all the nutrients in the food to the fact where you might as well just eat nothing. It's like you could eat plastic and gain no nutrients out of it.
Is this like your flat Earth stuff? Are you trying to get a rise out of us?
No, this is like.
Are you just picking at us now at the end of the podcast?
No, I'm not. Isn't that what microwaves do?
I mean,
No.
technically, you should boil all your food then too, because that preserves the most nutrients.
Well, yeah,
do you really
but
wanna eat
a
boiled hot
microwave
dogs?
actually
No, I think doesn't-
microwave actually destroys all the
should only eat
nutrients
it
in the
raw,
food.
then.
Well,
So
technically-
people should care how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah,
should eat
you
it
gotta be a
all
raw foodist.
Yeah.
You should go raw, buddy.
Raw. Chicken sushi.
No, I don't think that's how it works.
Okay. We should probably save that for the next episode.
We'll do an episode on microwaves.
Microwaves.
Man.
That would be the dullest damn show ever.
That would be terrible.
Let's talk about it. There's a reason people don't want to know how their microwave works because they're like, oh my God, shoot me in the face. They're like, just replace it with a new microwave. They don't even cost that much. Why are we talking about this? Yeah, no, but that's how computers have gotten. Like, people don't care anymore. They go in and pick up an iPad and they just assume it will work. And if it doesn't, they don't even fix them anymore.
They don't
No,
want
they
to use
just
it. They just
replace
want to
it.
think, and they want the computer to tell them what to do.
Well, and not necessarily tell them what to do, but they assume the computer will do the thing it's designed to do. Like, it is no longer a novelty. It is no longer a thing that people are like, how does this magic wand of a machine work? This is insanity. They just kind of use it. Just like they would use a dishwasher or they would use a whatever. And that's a good thing, but it also, what I have found, separates us from the mechanics of it. Like, you're getting further, like, I get this comment all the time. I'll get a person that goes, well, my 10-year-old nephew is a computer genius. He set up my iPad. And I'm like, yeah, no, it sets itself up. Like, you just have to know how to turn it on and hit next.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make him a computer genius. That makes him a genius compared to you because you don't know how to set up an iPad. Like it's all relatively.
He follows good instructions. He understands the verbiage that's being displayed.
Yeah,
on it.
or he did this on it. I go, yeah, he downloaded an app. Like, I know what he did. Like, it's not impressive. Like, can he peel the face off and replace the processor? Probably. No, he can't. He has no idea what's going on in there. Like, he's a power user. And that's what we have. We have an entire generation of power users that have no idea how computers work, but are super good at using them. But they're actually further away. These young guys I hire are further away from actual serviceable engineering knowledge than they were 10 years ago because they don't need to know. The components work much better. They're designed to integrate. You don't have to write a driver if you're doing something unique. It's probably out there somewhere. You just grab it, or it probably auto detects it. You know, a lot of the stuff that used to make you have to understand the components don't really exist anymore. Like, it's all kind of automated. So you're going to see the next generation of technologies where you're going to see the real engineering people show up. Like if we get into quantum computing, or if we get into, you know, crypto. Yeah. I mean, I still got a lot of people that don't believe crypto. They don't, you know, you're finally starting to see, because there's ETFs, like people invest, but even those people that are investing in crypto now, they have no idea what they're investing in. They just know somebody told them they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so you've got people that are genuinely understand how crypto works, but they're not a big portion of the population.
I give people an easy way to earn crypto.
How's that?
Basic attention token. All right, so Brave browser is created. That's one of their products, right? So if you download and use the Brave browser and you set it up to display ads, you get paid for allowing those ads to display.
No dice.
Yeah.
No.
I hate ads.
Nope.
But you can choose. It's the same thing as if you're.
And I choose no ads. And
if you're,
no, so
if you're any other.
I use DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, but DuckDuckGo is horrible.
You're horrible.
DuckDuckGo does not return good results.
Get out of my press conference.
Dude, I am so sick of DuckDuckGo. Every time I do a search, it gets me like the 5,000th row of
I'm not gonna
information.
Lie. I'm not gonna lie. At least 3-4 times a day, I gotta bounce over to Google because I'm like, it's gonna take an hour.
Dude, you should get
and
really.
It's always like the first result on Google.
Really,
and I'm
you
like,
should.
damn you, DuckDuckGo.
Dude, I've been using the Brave browser, and it's like it actually returns good results. Plus, like, just I don't even know when ads are popping up. Like, if say I do a search, if I do a search, and something pops up, and I click on it because I want to see what it is, I get paid. I get paid in crypto just for looking at it. So it's like you can earn free crypto just by using the browser, and it's still gonna.
Are you getting permission on this show?
I feel like, I don't know.
No,
Brave browser.
it's
Say it 10 times. Right?
Get crypto.
I think I've only earned like maybe 10 cents a day on the Brave browser, but I mean,
I don't need a dime that bad. Look, I'm flush with dimes.
But if you go and you use Chrome, you're going to get blasted with ads from Google.
I don't use Chrome.
And then if you click on them, Google's getting paid. Where now, if you click on them, you get paid.
Do you not use ad blockers in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
I use ad blockers on my browser, and I have a network-wide ad blocker installed at my house.
And I will never use a website that tells me it won't load if I have an ad blocker.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, then I'll never use you. And
Yeah,
I just
too
move on
bad.
to other sites. And I'm like, forget you. I was like, I don't do any of the ad stuff.
But if the things
Because you know what? And the reason why, this is so dumb, I don't like how much they know about me. I don't like that I'm thinking about buying new shoes and they start showing me shoes. I don't like it. I understand how it works. I know all the mechanics. I understand the marketing mechanisms. I just feel like, get out of my head. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
So it's all right. So we're technically done. People probably want to go home because in my mind, they're all sitting at like a sports bar watching this.
Yeah.
Like cheering every time Jimmy makes fun of me. Like, yeah! And then they all have to do a shot. So,
go contractor, dude.
Go wild card. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to bring up before we go quickly, like 1 minute each, or everybody? Did we cover everything you guys wanted to cover?
I think we're good.
I don't think we got into security as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
My one final thought I would like to say is not all open source software is made the same.
Yeah.
Like there is open source software I trust and I love, like Firefox and like like FileZilla and stuff like that. Please, for the love of Pete, if you're new to open source software, do not just go out and download anything you find and just trust it. Verify.
Well, that's the key. I think if you're going to use open source software, and I use a lot of open source software, I don't just find the first result. I make sure it's from the original developers.
Yep.
And it's still a supported community too, right? You don't want to go buy download a dead open source software.
And even if they don't talk about if it's a supported community, you can tell by the last update date.
Yep.
Do you see when was the last time they released an update?
Or you could technically download something that's just built to be a virus, right?
Exactly.
That's where you want to go to.
Be some kind of.
That's where the caution comes in.
You got to go to a trusted source to download your open source.
Go to that source, and if they redirect you to a GitHub or another place to download the repository, the package or whatever, then you're probably okay. But don't go to, I don't even know what some of them are called anymore.
I don't know either.
Just don't find a random
That's
one.
the most confusing thing about it.
It is.
Is that it runs you to all kinds of crazy lists on different various websites, and you're like, what is all this?
And just to be clear, a mirror server is just another place to download it.
Yeah.
Don't be worried about that term. I don't know why
Right.
they even use that term. It's so irritating. But you do want to verify wherever they're sending you is a legitimate place to download software from, because otherwise,
Okay, so what kinds of software would be bad? Like, I mean,
I don't know if there's a bad, but if you're looking for, like, I use a ton. Like my Photoshop replacement is open source. My Illustrator replacement is open source.
oh, I found a new video editing software for you that's open source, by the way.
Which one?
I'll give it to you.
Let me know. Yeah.
I'll get it to you.
You could find different distributions of those because somebody forked the code at some point and made their own. But I typically would always start with the original, right? Like paint.net is one I use. Go to their website. You can find their download link. Go to their GitHub. See the track changes and stuff, and be able to download it.
There's a little bit of work to do it right. Now, some of this stuff is so well established, you don't have to worry about it. Firefox.
Yes, yeah.
If you go into Mozilla, you're fine. You
Yep.
don't have to worry about it. Same with KeyPass. You know, there's no spin-offs on KeyPass that I know of. Or, FileZilla is pretty safe. But there's some stuff out there, especially when you get into stuff that by its very nature has access to your files. Like there's a lot of different types of file explorers out there. I mean, I would say hundreds. Everybody wants to make their own. They have a better idea for a file explorer. You want to make sure, and you can always search too and say, find a type and then find out, run a separate search for where's the best place to download this, or run a separate search for reviews. Like, is there security holes in this? Does it have a history of, crashing my computer? Because some of them, it may not even be a security risk, but if it's poorly written software, you can install it on your computer, and next thing you know, your computer's crashing constantly because it's just buffer overruns, or it's improperly using RAM, or it just isn't compatible. And as open source, nobody's checking this stuff. It's not like an app store where you go and you have to submit it and it has to get approved before it's available. This stuff's just out there.
all right. So then, with that said, what are the terms of the Linux challenge?
In terms of the Linux challenge,
So what am I supposed to do? So I got to download. I'm going to take my laptop. I'm going to convert it to Linux.
you know what we're going to do? We'll start the next show. We're going to iron out these terms.
Okay.
All right? And you're going to sign them
Okay.
in blood.
Okay.
And then tomorrow, or next week, we'll open the show with you going over the terms before we get into that topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll set a start date and end date.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming there's some sort of extreme and uncomfortable punishment if he fails.
Yeah.
But there's also a cheap plastic trophy if he wins.
Yeah.
Those are solid terms.
That's awesome.
Yes, it's going to be
Yeah,
good.
the
trophies
cheap
from
plastic
the coin
trophy.
machine.
Can we negotiate?
Yes. What's that?
Can we negotiate the cheap plastic trophy?
It's just going to be something we can drop a quarter in and turn it down and something pops out. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Absolutely.
You can pick the machine. It has no more than a quarter. If they make those anymore.
Young's Dairy owns a cornfield. I think you should have to run backwards through it naked if he fails.
I got to shave my head. I had to shave my head and run naked through the cornfield.
No, I would not shave off those beautiful locks. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't do that. I'm envious of that hair. If you keep that stuff, I'm not a monster. Thank you, everybody. Tyler, Jimmy, you guys are amazing. Everyone out there, thank you. Have a great night. Hope you learned something, and if not, maybe you smiled. Have a great day.
The Broken Agenda Podcast. Sponsored by Laughing Rock Technology.